Welcome everyone. Welcome people in Berlin at Republica. Welcome everyone watching us in a live stream. And let me start the timer, so we have the timer in scope. And also, thank you for taking time for this topic. The four of us, we're working in Deutsche Telekom. And we are quite different. We're quite different from our cultural background and our professional background. But there are a lot of things which we have in common. The first of all, we're working on daily basis in the so-called AI Competence Center in Deutsche Telekom, the unit which is responsible to drive AI adoption in Deutsche Telekom. Secondly, we care deeply about creating technology in a human-centered way, specifically AI. And certainly, we also dare to ask questions which are uncomfortable. We dare to drive initiatives which are sometimes not even asked from us. And the good thing, we are not alone. We're just a small part of a huge community within Deutsche Telekom, more than 400 active members who are passionate about the topic human-centered technology. Today, they have a full-day bar camp in Bonn. Like a micro-Republica, mini-Republica, people coming up, bottom-up with sessions, suggesting topics from different perspectives, driving this forward. As we've been thinking about how to design this session, we did not decide to just have a talk or have a panel with just one external participant. We try to design the session in a way which includes all of your audience. So it's going to be a little bit experimental, and we want to collect later on as many opinions as possible. To engage in a discussion with us, please scan this QR code where you can post your questions. You can also vote up on the questions which you have. We will tackle the one most voted question here on stage. And later, after the stage session here, we will have a meetup to deep dive further questions, to engage in discussions with all of you. And we also brought questions where we don't have answers yet. Questions where we have opinions, but we didn't discover a solution. And it's hard to find solutions, and this is where we also want to present these questions to you and get your opinions. Help us to navigate the way. Use us as your channel to shape the future we want to live in. So far for the setup. Let me quickly introduce the colleagues here on stage. We have Michelle. Michelle is our lead designer in AI Competence Center. Her cultural background is from Mexico. Currently, she's living in Spain. And her professional background is all about service design. She's worked in a number of different companies, from small to big, before joining Deutsche Telekom. I'm glad Michelle is with us. And we have Arun. Arun is our AI lead architect. And his cultural background is from India. Professional background, software development, AI architecture, software architecture, and he has worked in a number of companies across Canada, US, India, from small to big, bringing all of this experience into designing in the best possible way the future of AI. And we have Hamid. Dr. Hamid Keptabdar. Hamid is the guy within Deutsche Telekom who is consulting our board members, explaining them how AI works. And he's been doing AI since many, many years before all of the other hype started. He spent his professional career in research academia, research labs, but also worked for a number of big companies. Cultural background from Iran. Myself, Tatiana, I grew up in Siberia, in Russia, and have professional background in strategy, product development, but also mindfulness, and responsible to drive ethics and strategy. And I will be guiding and holding space for the discussions to come today. And with that, Michelle, stage is yours. Please give us insights into the service design aspects of AI.
Thank you, Tatiana. I'm super excited to be here. Well, I think we have all talked about the future powered by this amazing technology, AI, but technology by its own is just a shiny bubble. I think it's about time that we start moving away from the wow factor that we're living into the how factor. So how do we want to use this technology to create value for our society? In that line, let me share 2 challenges that we face every day working with this technology. The first one, understanding the problem and not just the technology. So in the traditional innovation process, you will identify a need and then define a solution for it. But with AI, technology often takes the center stage, and we end up fitting a user problem into already existing solution. And don't get me wrong, I think both approaches can work. However, there should be a golden rule. For every product that we develop, we should have a very clear value proposition. So that means, what problem are we solving and in what meaningful way? I believe we all should care to make sure that we include that human factor into the questions of business goals and technological developments. The second challenge is managing expectations. So generative AI is still young, but the hype is real. I think in this race for AI leadership, we have been creating the perception of what AI could do that almost resembled magic. So here is where transparency is key. We need to be very clear, of course, about the benefits of this technology, but we also should be very clear about what are the limitations of it. So what our products can and cannot do, so that people can feel more in control of the experience and not just overwhelmed by all the buzz around it. I think this is a learning journey. We are learning how to do it, but our goal should be to create products that just don't seem cool, but actually create value for society and put people back in the driver's seat. Handing it over to Tatiana.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Very insightful. And Arun developed something which he was not asked for, but I think this is a huge and disruptive step to also benefit society. Tell us more, Arun.
Thank you, Tatiana. So, hello everyone. I'd like to talk about how we are designing systems, how we are designing applied AI systems today. A lot of learnings from the previous computing waves are baked right into the heart of everything that we do. And to give a glimpse of what are those learnings, good or bad, that we are baking right into it, we need to have a glimpse of what the previous computing waves were. So the foundational level, we had the microprocessor wave, which is based out of silicon, and then came operating systems, and then came connecting machines, which was internet was the protocol that took over. And then came around about the same time, cloud computing, mobile computing, etc. So if you look at the theme, 2 major themes that you can observe. As we moved from bottom to top, you could see how it moved from an open ecosystem, which is championed by GNU and Linuxes of the world. Linux now powers almost everything that we know as of about computing. So it became from open to something in cloud computing, it's more of a closed ecosystem. And if you look at networks, internet is not a monopoly. It is not controlled by anybody. It championed the idea of decentralization, but at the same time, no one company can influence how internet works. From that, we got into the next wave, which is mobile computing, where you have these walled gardens, which is mostly controlled by 2 companies. So how do we think about intelligence computing, the name that we could use as the next wave in computing? Either we could go with the same approach, or we could reimagine computing this is exactly how we started off. So when I first interacted with LLMs, the idea, as Michelle talked about, it was magic. But the way I looked at it, it was made of something which I call magic silicon. And what if we could redefine computing, not with the current wave, but rather if we start everything from scratch? Which allowed us in designing systems, especially in Deutsche Telekom for the applications that we build, we wanted to build those basic abstractions, which champions these ideas right from the start. So we have something called as language models operating system, which was mostly a conceptual component which tries to abstract how you will now not be tied to one language model or so. Then we build something on top which is called the agents platform, on top of which you can build multiple agents, which is the future of computing as we think. And on top of this, we are building our chatbots, application bots, etc. So the story is we have a chance to define computing, and we are not only building applications, but all those design principles that we learned from previous computing ways, the good or bad, we are baking right into these design abstractions to be more open. When we talked about Elmos and platforms, how it can be sovereign, the agents platform can run in any machine or any data center, and how it can be a community-driven approach as we are more and more open sourcing some of these components, and how we can have governance and transparency by design, right baked into the platform. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Arun. And audience, everyone, don't forget to put your questions into the Slido and also vote on the questions which you had before, potentially. All right, and then Hamid, over to you. What are your aspects and designing human-centered technology in an AI aspect way?
So hi everyone, and thank you, Tatiana. So we know, despite all the positive hopes and vibes around Gen AI, at the moment this technology is in control of a few main commercial players. And it also is driven by gigantic models that function often like a black box. So they consume a lot of energy, and we also don't know exactly what's happening inside. And this raises concerns on transparency and sustainability of the technology. We share the same concerns, and that's why we already started our own journey of building, or better to say, fine-tuning telco domain-specific large language models. And in this journey, we have three main principles. So number one, we want to use open source as much as possible to make sure we leverage collective intelligence and diverse perspectives of developers worldwide in building a human-centric solution that fits actually everybody and also helps with decentralizing AI. And second, transparency and trust. So data we use for fine-tuning, algorithms we use for fine-tuning is going to be transparent, which actually brings more trust to our technology users. And at the end, but very importantly, sustainability. So the domain-specific models we are building are going to be far smaller than general purpose ones, which means that they run in a more energy-efficient manner. So after all, this is not only a technical project for us, but it's a movement towards more ethical, inclusive, and sustainable AI.
I think sustainability very much resonates with this audience here. And as we mentioned, we also have very motivated people from our community which are in Bonn watching the session here, and we want to try to connect to those people in Bonn. Hello, we see the picture coming, and there in the front is Claudia Nehmert. She's our board member for technology and innovation, and this is already the third bar camp which is happening company-wide around human-centeredness. And Claudia Nehmert, tell us more a little bit and why it's important to be human-centric nowadays.
So first of all, hello team, hello Berlin. For me and for Deutsche Telekom, it's very important to engage in a society debate about technology. And I've enjoyed being here at the Republika for many years now. And I'm actually very happy that you see such a diverse representation of our AI Competence Center there. Please let me assure you that we have far more many people working in the AI Competence Center and on AI. So to your question, why is human centricity so important to us? We are actually convinced that technology in general and AI in particular needs to serve humans and needs to adapt to humans and not the other way around. Actually, technology needs to solve practical problems, and while doing so, not create harm. And very important, we need to develop it in a frugal way, for instance, with minimum natural resource consumption. I love to take the picture of a surgeon. Imagine you have to do a surgery. You do expect the surgeon to be capable of doing the surgery. At the same time, you don't want her or him to give you an artificial hip just because he or she can make a lot of money with that. And last but not least, you also want it to be minimal invasive. So if you can get along with a small scarf, you don't want to have a big one, for example.
Thank you so much. And tell us more a little bit about the Barcamp. What sessions are happening and what are your personal highlights today in the Barcamp?
So that's actually fantastic. Looking around here in the team, so we have 21 sessions in 3 tracks, all dealing in one way or the other with human-centered technology and AI. To just give you a flavor, we have had, for example, a session that deals with the question how we stand up and go against hate speech in internet. We had a wonderful session talking about how to bring back truthful quality journalism. There was a number of things that dealt with the question, how can we use actually AI to fight against fake information? And how can we co-create and foster creativity together with AI? And then we had also questions like how to deal with neurodiversity and how to design technology and products for all. So I could go on and go on. I'm extremely excited about that, but just to give you a flavor, a lot of different topics here dealing with human-centered technology.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the Barcamp.
Yes, and we will continue to listen to you. Yes,
you so
it's
much.
exciting. Enjoy Berlin.
And now it gets really, really exciting because now we want to shift gears into what opinions you have on our questions, which we brought with us. This is a little bit of experiment, and let's see. Let me shift to the Slido here. Yeah. All right. So one of the questions which we really thinking about is humanity came up with many disruptive, huge inventions. Inventions of fire, invention of wheel, invention of electricity, and they all transformed in one or the other way how we as humanity continue to live. And AI is another wave. And our thinking is that we are now, like in the beginning, finding first use cases, but what will be the transformative power? How it will transform our society? So we are calling this next big thing. And this is bigger than just telecom. This is what will happen to our society in the coming years. How will it drive how we live together? And Hamid, we had recently some discussions around, how long it takes from the invention of something which, looking backwards, is huge, but the first use cases are sometimes fun and so on.
Takes very, very long, to come down. I already see ideas there. I especially like the empathy machine. So, great idea. So, as you mentioned, Tatiana, the thing is that I don't have a definite answer for this, but I wanted to bring this question and spark discussions and thoughts for our meetup later on and exchange ideas with you. Well, since we have GenAI, we have been working on many different systems, including chatbots, search, knowledge retrieval, and so on, which all seems to be the right move and correct. But question is that all we can do with generative AI? And the answer is most likely no. That's not all. So what's the better thing or the next big thing we can do? If we look at the history of human, we see that we often underutilized, as you said, what we invented or discovered. Even if we take the basic case of fire, we discovered it like 2 million years ago, and initially we used it to get warm and as protection. And it took us 1 more million years to start using it for cooking and building tools. But that was actually the next big thing with fire, because cooking and building tools revolutionized development of our brain and our society. So We want to see if Gen AI follows similar paths, and if we can actually help ourselves to imagine that transformative power better, something that we haven't yet even imagined.
Yeah.
And hopefully come up with that faster than 1 million years.
Yeah. We see a lot of contributions in Slido. Unfortunately, somehow it's not seeable on the screen. Thank you for all of your input. What's huge on the screen and probably put in a couple of times is well-being. So how we might cure ourselves as a humanity in terms of well-being. Okay, let's shift gears to a second question, because the other thing which we are looking into, who can rely on defining the next AI big thing? Are there some white male sitting at a desk and trying to find the next big thing? Michelle, any views from you? What could be the...
Yeah, I think it relates very much to the previous question. So what it would be the best next thing is who will be defined what is the best next thing. So do we want to give that position of power to the big tech organizations, and how do we ensure, if that's the direction that we're taking, that the different perspectives that matter are included into the decision-making process? So I think we can learn from history that having, as Tatiana said, like a group of wild male men on the board calling the shots for our society often doesn't take into account, vulnerable societies or communities. So what systems can we put in place to ensure that the ones who are calling the shots include the perspective that matter? We should look at what are the opportunity, also what are the collateral damage of this technology, and how can we try to prevent that by including those perspectives in the table and having those voices heard. I hear that I think it follows the same line, that it should be a bottom-up approach. Our community should be embedded into the process of defining what is the next thing, or it shouldn't be just someone on top. But of course, I also see like academia, humans, everybody. So it's a collaborative effort for sure.
And what I like the most, ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Ourselves. We all need to engage to develop this something, not lean back and say, well, someone will fix it. Some politicians or someone, it all starts with us as users, as small developers, as decision makers. So it starts with ourselves and our development. All right, let's shift gears to our third question, which we brought with us. And this is around the incentives, because we've seen already the very first glimpse of what social media did to us, our society, and we might have not intended as a society to have all of these effects. But question to you, dear audience, what would be the right incentive to drive AI into human-centered direction? Also maybe keep in mind the role of Europe we can play here, and I think, Arun, you are pretty passionate about this topic. Let's make sense of what is coming from the audience and debate.
Great. So this is a topic which I often discuss with a lot of people in the ICC. So first of all, if you look at the slide that I showed earlier, where did Linux come in from? Where did GNU come in from? Where did Internet came in from? Linux came from Europe, from Finland, Linus Torvalds, very friendly guy. Where did Internet take shape? CERN, again, Europe. And what was the incentive for these people to develop those technologies, or a group of people? It is fundamentally the joy and pursuit of knowing more or creating something more. All we need to do is put resources and give the direction to the right set of people who are motivated to do something more and not just driven by the current economic models. That's the fundamental thing. So if you put resources into the hands of people who are passionate, I can also vouch for what we did at Telekom. The whole development of Elmos, there was no initiative called Elmos. We wanted to build bots and deploy AI for better use to better serve our customers. But when we started this initiative, the way I pitched to bring some of the best people to work with us was to tell them, hey, we are not building chatbots. We might be able to shape the future of computing. We will first build probably an operating system. We might build the next computing platform. And then on top, we will build these platforms. the amount of excitement which brought together a small group of people who are contributing over weekends to these kind of projects is immense. There is no incentive. The incentive is to put resources right into those.
Yeah, and the incentive is let's build cathedrals, right? You didn't tell them, okay, just build some bricks and just a wall, but you've been inspiring the largest thinking. Let's build something where our kids, our grandkids want to live in, and we have a role to play in this also as a corporates. And thank you for all of your input. We're eager to discuss in a meetup. Let's switch gears and see what questions came up and also see what is the most voted questions. And here we promise to address at least one question here on stage. So, how can Europe get back into the driver's seat of digitalization and catch up to China and USA? It's the question which got 10 votes. And let's debate and see how we can, what are ideas to bring back Europe.
So I'll probably
like
start
the question.
with Europe.
You're
Yeah,
right.
exactly. So one of the reasons why did I move to Europe as well? So the essence is where there's a will, there's a way. So Europe has a will, which is how it has formulated strategies, EU AI Act, and how to tame the monopolies. What requires the way, I believe, fundamentally is grassroots movement from researchers and developers and put resources into them. And that's all what we need to do. And from the previous examples, as we have seen. So resources and incentives for people on the ground, bringing these kind of communities and also new economic models should ideally emerge where these kind of startups, I would call it the guardrails or the guardian AI movement, which can spring up a lot of these kind of startups, and Europe or the governments or enterprises are the first customers of this, which will bring together the right people to do this.
And call to action to everyone.
Absolutely.
Right?
This is the grassroots movement that we are fundamentally
beyond company borders, right?
Absolutely.
And the open source is a great platform, right? Because this is not contained by the company borders. So call to action to everyone. And maybe let's look on a question around creativity in AI, and how can we start to talk on this? Anyone resonating? Want to have a state on that, or?
Yeah. Well, there is always the discussion when you talk about AI replacing or automating certain jobs. But there is another part to it, which is augmenting and making sure that we provide or we use this technology not to replace, but to provide additional capabilities that weren't there before, that we're having, like creating an extensions of our human skills and capabilities into a level that we haven't been able to imagine. So I don't think it's a black and white discussion, but there should be some gradient in there that help us to use the technology to improve the humans and not just replace them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are looking, I see already the stage manager, I think we're passionate to debate about 2 week with you or even years. But before we will be carried off the stage, let me thank you for your time, for being here. And please continue discussing with us. We are in a speak up stage, which is behind the stage number 1, where we can engage in smaller discussions, smaller groups. And thank you for being here.